A lot of tech companies have a go-to-market strategy when they expand into Southeast Asia. Now, it's not that they don't plan, they do, but there's often a blind spot. Not because the product is bad, not because the team didn't try, but because what feels logical from a Western point of view, the timelines, the value proposition, even the product positioning, doesn't always translate the way you expect in markets like Singapore, Malaysia, or Indonesia. This is one example that I'm discussing in this video that stood out, which is Spotify. When they entered Singapore, Malaysia, and Hong Kong, they did few things that felt very small, but ended up becoming their most important element in their GTM. And I think more people should see what they actually did. It's not the marketing story, it's how they showed up, what the strategies they implemented, and how it shaped their whole overall GTM strategies. And now they are taking a huge chunk of the market share across Malaysia, Singapore, Philippines, Indonesia, and Hong Kong as well. All right, so we're starting with what Spotify did. And before I want to go into Spotify, it's always about the major problem that I have been seeing every single time with every company coming in Southeast Asia, which is skipping the local culture and not really understanding it. I would even advise you, if you're a GTM director or you're sales director, you've never been to Singapore, you've never been to Malaysia, you go there, eat their food, listen to their music, understand their culture, understand how they speak the English. There's Singlish, there's Manglish, there's so many different dialects. Even the way they speak, they have a fusion of 4 or 5 different languages in one sentence. And this is why it matters for you as a salesperson or GTM director that haven't been into Southeast Asia. I'm not even saying that you should skip hiring, but I'm saying that you need to be involved in the culture first. You need to understand what really matters. A culture is really a big deal, especially in APAC region and specifically in Southeast Asia. And the more deeper you go, the more you will realize that there are even different subcultures in the region. Whether it's you go to Indonesia, you'll see Jakarta has a different dialect in Bahasa, different than Medan and different than Surabaya. And you will go deeper and deeper and deeper to understand that every single micro element is so important in shaping your business. And this is what exactly Spotify understood. They actually managed to localize very fast. They translated it, but translating is just one micro basic step, and I'm not gonna go into it. But what they went deeply in is they managed to build playlists that are hyper localized for not every country, but every city and every specific region based on their algorithm. And it was even tied to local events. It was tied to a lot of relevant events that took place in every single country. They did their homework, as simple as that. And that's what Sunita Kaur said, if I'm saying her name correctly. She's the managing director of Spotify Asia. She did say with each country that we go into, every country is very, very passionate about their local artist. So it's not just the big international stars that trend. And this is the reason why they really nailed it. When they went to Singapore, you can see it's actually right now popular. 2 out of 5 internet users stream music on Spotify. And you can see why. Well, basically they featured the local hits and they prioritized that. They spotlighted homegrown talent and hosted live session with regional artists. And this is exactly what they also did in Philippines. There was even if we're gonna go a little bit further back, there's always this season in Kuala Lumpur and few other cities in Malaysia and also in Indonesia as well. There's a haze, and this haze was a crisis at some point because it was too extreme back in 2019. Guess what? They created a playlist called Hazed and Confused, and the social media lit up with amazing trend, and everybody was so excited about that playlist because it did align with the whole complaint. Everybody was complaining. They went to social media on their Instagram, Facebook, and so on. They were just going nuts about it. So what Spotify did, they dropped 40-track Hazed and Confused playlist. They featured Pani Haze themed songs. They had, like, one of the example was, it's called No Air by Jordan Sparks, if you know him. They also another one, We Didn't Start the Fire by Billy Joel. The results was crazy. They had about thousands of followers within days, massive organic reactions across various social media. Not a single ad took place for this kind of campaign. And this is one of the biggest hits they had for Spotify to go viral across various countries, especially Singapore and Malaysia, because it was trending there. And then also they had a lot of surges in different places, in Thailand and in Vietnam, with similar tactics and similar strategies. So this brings me to 5 tactics or 5 GTM strategies that Spotify implemented and made sure that they are executed on a granular level across various countries and regions and cities. And this will bring me to the first one. So obviously, they had to localize the content and the offering to fit the cultural taste. So global cannot fit local, and it's common sense, but apparently a lot of startups keep failing into it. That was also one of the major problems with Netflix and a few others when they started in Southeast Asia. They were going too much global, and then slowly they realized like maybe the local taste was more on the Korean side, not on the Hollywood side, on Bollywood side, not on Hollywood, and so on. So all of this stuff you need to really know when you understand local taste versus global taste. And translating is obviously never going to be enough. I mean, translating without context doesn't make you localized. The idea is Spotify nailed this by building country-specific playlists that spotlighted local artists and genres, not just looping the same global top 40. So basically, it was not something that was hidden under the top trending 40 playlist that is always very common if you're outside of Southeast Asia, especially if you're living in the UK and the US, and so on and so forth. The strategic solution was as simple as that, right? It was local culture. What is it? Reflect actual user behaviors, languages, and preferences. What is a local offering? Do not just import, but curate with intention. And local teams. So they actually managed to hire a lot of great, talented local editors, creators, and curators. So that brought a very interesting output for them on their strategy. And as you can see, this can go with other various industries as well, the same exact tactic. So if you have a streaming app, obviously you can do that. If you're doing gaming, you need to make sure that your game is aligning with some of the local stories, local characters, the local themes. If you're doing e-commerce and you want to activate it across Southeast Asia, you probably want to focus on local seller, like when the merging took place between TikTok, which is a China company, and Tokopedia. So these are all the things that is always being utilized across big companies and small startups as well. The second point is leverage culture events and local memes in marketing. And this is really, really intense because at the end of the day, humor, local events, the values that are being built in the culture is everything. And if you just simply ignore that, if you simply having your social media team or whatever team you have in your marketing department, not fully aware of what's exactly trending on a granular level, not just simply trending generally like the top 20 trends and 30 trends. No, you have to know which influencer and is attached to what is the narratives, and so on and so forth. So this is exactly what it means. When you say create a cultural aware marketing engine, you're looking into building a country-specific culture calendar. You're looking into plan timely campaign hooks, monitor daily trends and memes, and obviously deliver light and contextual content. So how do you translate all of that? It's very simple. You need to track all the major holidays, festivals, seasons, sport finales, and so on. You cannot just simply miss that. And you need to understand the holidays, various ethnic tribes, a lot of ethnic holidays, and there's government holidays, and there's minority holidays. You have to be aware of all of that. And you have to understand how to tailor it towards this segment that you plan to target. And same goes tying your band to something that is happening right now. Like for example, the haze season in KL, it always happens every year or two, depending on how bad it is. I mean, it's bad, it's not good, nobody likes haze. But that's where you need to leverage from that, because everybody now is aligned on something they hate, and you come into the flow and you say, you know what, let's make something out of it, you know? Obviously, you need to have full awareness of what is called like the humor. The American humor, the British humor is different than the Australian one, different than the Malaysian one. And if you're not really understanding the nuances, or you don't understand how the elements that should be in the humor takes place, you need to really do your homework. And this is when you need to hire a local team to have a much relevant humor when you want to engage, so it wouldn't backfire. Not every engaging humor post will be accepted if it doesn't align. And these are some of the examples of what we say getting involved. As you can see, this is what Spotify was doing. It's okay, the breakup was mutual, and then also me. Or I want to be more of a morning person, but also me. And that's exactly the Also Me campaign. And that was really a hit for them, and it went really viral across social media. So, and same goes on, like there's Ramadan coming in Malaysia. Okay, let's do which is like I say in Indonesia and Malaysia is a Muslim majority country. So obviously you would need to be very much sensitive to that, and you need to leverage from that as well. Number 2 would be adapting to the local market habits and infrastructure. So this is one of the major issues that I've been seeing again and again and again. A lot of startups, for example, let's say, oh, we are accepting payments in US dollars. Or you're putting US dollars in your official website. And if I'm reaching you via your website from Malaysia, I don't see a currency that I understand. Not every single person is aware of that currency, the euros or the US dollars or the sterling pounds. Not really relevant. And this is exactly another thing that puts into how you can kill the friction. So you need to be aware of what is the friction. Is it the payment behavior? Is it the infrastructure gaps? Infrastructure gap is like, for example, in Indonesia, a lot of urban areas does not have good internet connection. So how can you handle this? What kind of streaming options can you provide if, let's say, you're utilizing internet as a very important part of your infra? And income levels. For example, you need to make sure that the pricing matches. For example, Indonesia should not be the same as maybe Singapore. For example, in Indonesia, you need to look into maybe I should do a little bit less tier for the pricing that will be obviously with less features, but will align with the local purchasing power compared, for example, to Hong Kong or Singapore or Malaysia. So you have to have that into place, and you need to make sure it's different and varies from one country to another. And this is exactly what Spotify did. Even in Philippines, they even had cash. So people went to pay their subscription for an online app via 7-Eleven. I mean, it's insane if you've been living a very long time in UK or in the US. However, it is what it is. And cash has been a very prominent thing. In fact, even e-commerce has been suffering with cash on delivery problems because everybody loves cash and paying cash for many reasons. One of it is they don't trust payment gateways. I want to see the product because I don't trust the local sellers. So there's a lot of trust issues there in the market, and you need to be aware of that. So same goes what Spotify did. Another thing is number 4 would be partnering with local names that matter. So you cannot just simply go alone. You cannot be going solo. You need to know, okay, who can be my strategic partnership, or how can I find strategic partnership that are performing and will help me go inside the market. And it can be via co-branding with local names, teaming up with creators, showing up at the right events. So what Spotify did was very simple. They partnered with the Music Run, and they even had embedded playlists. They had partnered with other music events. So this is one of their tactics and one of their strategies to obviously utilize this point. They also, hiring local team. They bring me to the last point, which is hiring local team and advisors. You cannot really strive. In fact, one of the problems that I see in stiff brands that have been, let's say, running so long time away from Southeast Asia, and let's say they come to Southeast Asia, they still have the mentality that might not be aligned with what's happening here. So this is where you need to slowly hire. And when you slowly hire here, obviously you will be replacing the mid-management and the entry-level jobs to be 100% in the APAC region. And therefore, it brings your brand to be a much more localized culture, localized form, and so on. And that's about it. So this is exactly why it matters. And this is what Spotify actually did. They had their HQ in Singapore. So obviously they started, I think, back in 2013. They chose the first 3 countries were Singapore, Malaysia, and Hong Kong. And then they realized, you know what, let's make our HQ in Hong Kong. And then obviously they went after that to Philippines. Moving to 2016, they went to Indonesia, and then things started to happen. But they wanted to have an HQ. And the HQ was the local team. The place where they plan to hire all the local team that would be relevant, whether it's in the Philippines, whether it's in Malaysia, whether it's in Singapore, whether it's in Hong Kong. So they needed a place where they can focus on place that has a local awareness and local understanding of Southeast Asia, and even much more granular on every single country as well, because you cannot treat Southeast Asia as a one country. It's a various countries with various cultures and religions, and you need to always have an understanding of how to localize every part of it. So why localization wins in Southeast Asia? I don't really need to repeat that. I'm sure you by now you already know the 5 points and the 5 GTM strategies that you should implement, and you need to stay tuned because we have a much more practical step-by-step guides and a lot of courses and things that will take place in our YouTube channel on Expand East. Keep watching and stay tuned for more interesting insights on that matter. Thank you very much.